We have more for your ears only. I'm Eddie Robinson.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. Until someone goes to jail, there will be no justice done here. That was Cecil Robert, president of the United Mine Workers of America International, disdaining the $209 million settlement agreed to by new owners of the West Virginia mine, where an explosion last year killed 29 workers. Families of the victims will receive $46.5 million, with the remainder going to mine safety education and improvements. Now this.
Aren't you tired of being that 99% that's getting played all the time? Yeah. So how do we start it? We got to start it today and keep this ball going.
As Occupy encampments last week were cleared by police in San Diego and ruled against by a court in Boston, the spirit surged on Capitol Hill, with demonstrators deploying to congressional offices to argue for more economic justice. And still, more targets are being mentioned, among them the class known as venture capitalists. Normally thought of as a creative force in the economy, VC funds have been making millions of dollars while destroying billions in public pension funds, critics complain. In testimony before the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions this past July, David Marchick of the Carlyle Group private equity firm said that public pensions now account for 42% of all investment in venture capital and other alternative asset classes with little or nothing to show for it.
To talk more about the role of VCs in today's increasingly unbalanced economy for your ears only, we're joined by Tom Matlack, himself a venture capitalist as well as a journalist and co-founder of the Good Men Project, an online magazine at goodmenproject.com, whose latest issue features the Occupy VC argument. He's also editor of the book The Good Men Project: Real Stories from the Front Lines of Modern Manhood, published under the Good Men Foundation, a nonprofit that donates book proceeds to the Boys and Girls Clubs and other charities. Mr. Matlack, welcome to our program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Remind us about the role of venture capitalists, where they get their capital, and why the pension funds we mentioned have been ill-served by them.
Venture capital has been one of the great stories of the American economy, involved in forming everything from Ford Motor Company to Google to the big companies, Zynga and others, that are driving our economy now. Unfortunately, venture capital kind of lost its course. It started out being funded by Ivy League endowments and moved from that point into endowments of other universities and then into large pension plans. And with that proliferation of capital, the way venture capital funds are structured is kind of a heads I win, tails you lose kind of operation. In other words, they raise billions of dollars, venture capitalists raise billions of dollars, make fees off that money, whether or not their investments are successful. And if they are successful, then they get a portion of the profits. And so in our most recent edition of the Good Men Project, we looked at the Pennsylvania pension plan in particular because beneficiaries of that plan had sued to have the actual track record of the underlying venture capital managers made public. And so what that showed was that the 100 or so top venture capital firms over the last decade had each made tens of millions, and in some cases hundreds of millions of fees personally, making themselves incredibly wealthy at the same time while they had destroyed billions and billions of capital that was intended for working folks' pension plans.
Well, is this illegal, or is it that the venture capitalists have a higher moral obligation because they channel those public pension funds?
There's nothing illegal about it. I mean, venture capitalists are very smart human beings, and so they have belt and suspenders in terms of the way that those funds are structured and the agreements that underlie them. And so, no, it's not illegal. I would say it's immoral. I think that taking millions and billions of dollars of pension plan money and squandering it at the same time while you personally make, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars in fees, I don't think it's the right thing to do given the state of our country.
What is your personal view of the Occupy phenomenon, how important its impact has been up to now, and where you think it should be headed?
Well, I'm very sympathetic, and I think it's great. I mean, I think it's pointing to the problems of economic disparity of men in our country, particularly in the middle and working class, who have been displaced as the economy has moved away from them. The problem of race, the problem of education, I guess my frustration is that there isn't a more focused message. I would like to see there be more organization and more of a stand instead of kind of a general revolt. I'm not sure that that's going to get us anywhere.
Tell us more about the Good Men Project itself. First, why and how it originated.
Well, the Good Men Project started 3 years ago when my venture capital partner and I decided that making money was all well and good, but we, in our own personal lives, two pretty well-off, middle-aged white guys were looking for more and had realized that we really want to explore what it meant to be a father, what it meant to be a good husband. And we began to get phone calls from our friends in the financial industry who were asking those same questions. And so we really began to scratch our head and said, well, geez, if we're asking these questions, how about the guys who are fighting our wars in the Middle East? How about the guys who are getting laid off at a GM plant? How about the guys, who were trying to make a living by selling drugs because that was the only way they knew how to survive and ended up in prison? And so we went out and collected 31 of those stories and put those into this book, and then that turned into this online community that really is about trying to explore what is going on with manhood. We kind of see it everywhere in the news, but there's no one really talking about it, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, give us an idea of the range of topics you cover under that umbrella.
Well, it's really everything. I mean, the stated mission is what it means to be a good father, good husband, good worker, good son, good man. We tend to get into issues of sexuality, looking at both what it means to have intimacy and what it means to do something about sex trafficking and pornography, looking at race, looking at gender, looking at fathers and sons, looking at the workplace. That's how we got into the story about VC and Occupy.
Tom Matlack is a journalist, venture capitalist, and co-founder of The Good Men Project at goodmenproject.com. He's also editor of the book, The Good Men Project, Real Stories from the Front Lines of Modern Manhood, published under the Good Men Foundation.
Then there's nothing in this world can fall for modern man. When some men can stick together, man to man.
Quote from the news, "I never intended to break any rules." That was former New Jersey Senator and Governor Jon Corzine in Washington to defend his actions as CEO at now bankrupt MF Global Brokerage, now being investigated for $1.2 billion missing from customer accounts.
Next, Michael's music. Feinstein, that is, for your ears only.